I was uninvited for my brother's wedding because I wouldn't take communion. Our older brother defended me, but my brother attacked him. I'm 31, have 3 siblings, and we have a good relationship despite the age gaps between some of us. My older siblings are both married, and so am I. The wedding in question is my younger brother Luke's. He's engaged to his girlfriend of 2 years, Emma. She's 28 and seems nice, but we've never really clicked and are just polite to each other. We're all Catholic, but not particularly devout. Some of us are even lapsed. I do believe this. The whole situation started just when I met her for the first time. I look younger than Luke, and it has always been a joke between us that I'm the baby of the family. Most people that meet us assume he is older than me, but nobody has had issues with it until Emma. The day I met her, she kind of scoffed when I said I was pleased that the baby had a suitable partner. She has this peculiar tendency to believe she is the eldest in her family and was reluctant to accept that I was older than her until I showed her my ID. She has been somewhat inconsistent in her behavior towards me since then, often being dismissive or attempting to adopt a superior attitude. I have simply let her be, and usually I've decided to ignore her since I don't have the time to try and beg for her friendship. I'm just going to be polite and civil, always include her when planning stuff, but don't really make an effort. The family knows about it, but we just shrugged it off as different personalities. Then the wedding planning started. Emma decided I could not be in the wedding party since I was not married in a church. I'm fine with that. The wedding party. Since I wasn't married in a church, that was fine with me. Then she asked for the dress plans from my immediate family so she could check they matched the wedding dress code. Fine, whatever. As I'm sure you can see, I haven't gone to confession or communion in more than a decade. If I go to a mass for whatever reason, I'm respectful and simply sit or stand during the rites. I don't participate. While this is not good enough for her, she says I need to take communion during their wedding. I said no, and she has not taken it well. For the most part, I avoid her as I said before. But this time I wasn't going to agree or risk causing an issue. I told her that to take communion, one needs to go to confession, and I didn't want to. She said that all immediate family members were doing it and that it would look bad if I didn't. I told her, sure, fine. Then I'll just go have communion in front of everybody, but I won't do confession. She said that if I was going to be like this, she'd uninvite me from the wedding because I was clearly trying to ruin the day for her. I turned to my brother and told him thanks, gave him a thumbs up and went home. My family understand my reasoning and said they respect everybody's choices, but I shouldn't have said what I did. I told them I really don't want to go to the wedding anymore and I don't owe anyone explanations about my life. I only called my grandma because she heard what happened and asked me not to disrespect the church by doing the communion without confession. I promised I wouldn't do it and she is fine with me now. My brother texted to say he wanted to compromise. I replied by asking if the other people were being made to take confession. He said no because it was only nuclear family members. I find it funny since all the others are clearly older than her and she just behaves like this with me and the youngsters. Comments where OP has replied. Lucky, effective 1564 NTA, who died and made Emma Pope. Oop lol. I'll share this one with my grandma next time we talk. She'll love it. I wouldn't bother with the church. I'd just send her an email and let her deal with the consequences. I did think about it, but I don't think I will. My grandma might be doing it herself. She's also lapsed, but didn't want me to be disrespectful. She knows the priest who will. He's the one officiating and he's not really happy with all the drama. Update 1/26 October 2024. Things have moved on, but I wouldn't call any of this positive progress. I'd like to clear up something I've seen in the comments. I won't be requesting a special blessing or going in the queue for communion. It's not about the blessing. Or the compromise. But the singling me out. I often just stay quiet or take a general family blessing if we go to weddings, etc. I have no issue with compromises. I have an issue with Emma and her ridiculousness. I don't know why she has this thing with me. I do look young, but not like a teen or a child. Obviously she has 2 younger sisters and is very authoritative with them. I have seen her being very inflexible with younger people, so she has issues for sure. The confrontation from the last post was on Tuesday, and today we had lunch at my grandma's. I think you should also know that my brothers have a tricky. My older brother Robert is very straightforward and has never been a fan of Emma. However, he didn't think he should have to get involved because Luke is an adult and can handle his own relationships. This is all going to come up later. I promise we visit Grandma a lot since she lives by herself and we truly enjoy her company. Today we were all there because she is over this drama already, after a lunch that was more like snacking to be honest. She asked us all to clear the air. Emma continued with her rant about me being a disrespectful person, and that she was just asking for the bare minimum from me. My grandma asked her why she had no issue with her not taking communion. Emma said that she was her elder and that her reasons were more than just a tantrum, like it was in my case. She also repeated that she was asking this of all the siblings and that I was the only one. She was being difficult with her. This tiny request is where everything fell apart for her. I mentioned in the comments that Robert is also lapsed, and he was already exhausted by the situation. He asked her why she had no issues with him not taking communion. She looked like a kid that was caught. She didn't have Robert then asked her if she even knew why he and Grandma became lapsed. She shook her head and looked at Luke for help. Luke, on the other hand, was staring angrily at Robert, and Ebert said nothing. Robert explained to Emma that he was the reason Grandma became lapsed. When Robert was a teen, he came out. As a gay man, I was really worried about how our grandparents would react, given that they were very active in the Catholic Church. Grandma felt awful about it, and even worse when she spoke about this with the priest at her church. He was very traditional and told her that Robert was committing sins. Grandma wasn't having any of it. She stopped going to church and started spending her time with her grandchildren. Over the years, she got involved in the community again but decided she wasn't interested in taking the sacraments. She respects some aspects of the church but not all of them. Emma was a bit confused since Robert is married to a woman and he explained he is bisexual and ended up with a woman just as he could have ended with a man. He also commented that they are not married in the church, but that didn't matter to her. He asked her directly what her problem with me was. Long story short, she said I was rude since the beginning and kept treating Luke wrong. Oh, and I also was very snarky about looking younger than her. There was silence. She is a beautiful, successful woman, so I still don't understand her obsession, but it seems like she wants people to see that I respect her and what she says. I just started laughing. She started crying and saying that I'd turned her grandma against her. My grandma told her to stop blaming people for her being a negative person and that she was always going to side with me over her. Luke got upset at that and asked her why she said she doesn't support him being a lapdog for a crazy woman. Moore was silent and didn't get anything resolved. I was kind of invited again but declined. My older siblings told Luke they'll go to the ceremony if he seeks. I think couples therapy might be a good idea. My parents are having headaches and now dislike Emma so much that they can't hide it. Oh, and yes, Grandma spoke with the priest, and he wants them to do extra premarital counseling or he won't officiate. I hope they don't get married, but he is old enough to derail his life if he wants. Thanks for letting me vent. My grandma also loved the Pope joke comment where OP has K, a underscore, and irony. Well, I hope for your brother's sake that the extra premarital counseling results in him rethinking his plan to marry Ms. Entitled and Controlling. Good luck to you, Trippy Dwyer 48. What's ironic is that the Catholic Church has a mandatory course or consultation called pre-cana that couples must complete before marrying in the Catholic Church. The course helps couples prepare for the sacrament of marriage by reflecting on the spiritual, emotional, and practical aspects of marriage. The priest or deacon also weighs in on the compatibility of the couple. At least those I know who went through it had that happen. I think it varies by diocese. But I know my cousin's was 6 months long. Update October 28, 2024. My brother has gone too far. And I decided to be done with him. He made our grandma cry. And I think he's permanently damaged a lot of his. I'd like to mention some of my cousins and other family members thought I was just stubborn and creating drama, but now there is no longer a my side or an Emma side. Maybe he always felt this way, but the issue he has with Robert is ridiculous. He was so upset with what Grandma said about him. He called Emma to speak about it, as he was her favorite grandchild and would get her to side with me no matter how wrong I was. I wasn't present for the conversation, but Grandma told me what happened and Luke confirmed it. He told her that it was unfair of me to ask Robert for help. He also told her that many of the cousins believed this and that it was so obvious since she even left her religion for him. He said that the other LGBTQ+ members of the family were mostly not even born when Robert came out. He also doubted if she would do it for them. So, Grandma explained to Luke and then she asked all of her grandchildren how they felt about it and explained to each of them that we didn't know. She said that when Robert came out and she spoke with the old priest, he hinted at knowing of places to set Robert straight. Grandma had heard horror stories from these places and so had Robert. I spoke with my parents together about that not being an option at all. My parents never intended to send Robert there. We were just casual Catholics. But Grandma wanted to cover the bases just in case. I was told Grandma sounded like she had been crying on the phone. After the first couple of calls, which went from oldest to youngest, the group chat started to blow up. Robert is livid. Our LGBTQ cousins are livid and say Luke lied. Even the cousins that were telling me to stop being a stubborn head or livid by the time I was up for my call, I was already on the way to Grandma's. 2 of my cousins were already there. And the youngest one, Sarah, who is 16 and female, was ready to literally fight Luke for a bit of levity. Sarah is about 35 centimeters smaller than Luke, and the image of her swinging at him made me laugh a bit. She asked if I was making fun of her, and I just explained the whole mental image of her trying to hit him. She admitted it was kind of funny. I didn't tell her that I'd love to slap some sense into Luke. My grandma has been through a lot in her life, and this is not what we want for her. She looks puffy-faced and keeps asking everybody if they truly feel unloved by her. She says she'd do everything for any of us and explains how Robert was the oldest grandchild. But that didn't mean she loved the rest any less. She is a strong woman. But I think something inside her broke a little with the thought she hurt her grandchildren. It was a big one, and I was just so done with Luke. My parents have been passive towards the situation so far because I asked them. After hearing what happened, they told them they needed time away from him. Robert is simply disgusted and decided to not speak with him anymore, which he communicated through the cousin group chat. Luke's response was that this is why Emma's help on raising all of us would be so beneficial if he also said that Robert never cared for him or anyone else and just tried to be the center of attention all the time. He mentioned his coming out, his announcement that he was going to marry a woman and the birth of his child. It was ridiculous. He came out when Luke was a toddler and for many years, only our parents knew. And the grandparents knew that he announced he was going to marry his current wife through a text, but they didn't interfere or take anything from anybody. His child was born 4 months before Luke's graduation, and apparently that was a big issue for Luke. He never commented on it. Maybe I'm biased, maybe I'm selfish like Emma claims, but I think Robert has done a lot for his cousins. He's babysat them, taught them, gotten them out of trouble, you name it. He isn't perfect, but he isn't the conniving person Luke is claiming he is. Maybe Luke has always felt inadequate and we didn't notice. Maybe it was his last-ditch effort. Maybe Emma has manipulated him. I don't think he'll be back. It doesn't matter anymore. If he does marry Emma, I wish him the best. If he doesn't, I hope he goes to therapy. Regardless of what he decides, he's burned so many bridges and hurt so many people. I don't see this resolving anytime soon. For now, I will focus on my grandma and making I feel really guilty because it was Emma's situation with me that opened this can of worms. I know I shouldn't, but it's hard not to. Some comments on OP have. Lizard Girl 25. It sounds like it's self-projection from Luke. He is the conniving asshole he is saying Robert is. I'm also sending hugs to your grandma and your family in general. Robert is the type of older cousin Sarah would call if she was drunk at a party and needed a safe ride. He also did it for Luke, which is why I don't understand his behavior. Ghost 3022, irrational behavior is called that because it can't be rationalized. Luke is. He's exhibiting some pretty irrational behavior, which is why you'll never understand it. Hopefully he'll get some serious therapy and pull his head out of his ass sooner rather than later. If he asked for help and apologized sincerely, I'd be there in 2 seconds. He knew what he was doing when he spoke without his grandma. He knew it would upset her, and he knew it would hurt Robert too. Robert might not be crying, but he feels bad about what happened. He's always looked out for everybody. He even has pictures of him holding all of us on his walls. They were the closest of brothers. But this is too much. Nobody is going to his wedding. My parents are undecided about attending the ceremony, but they're leaning more towards not attending. Update, November 3rd, 4th, 2024. I've mentioned this in some of our chats and DMs, but please know that the situation with Emma isn't about her being parentified or her family being strict Catholics. It's just her being her. They were already going to get premarital counseling, and an extra session was added. Oh, and all the cousins also don't live in the same city or town. Some are a bit longer than others, but we keep in touch through the chat. The reason for the update is mainly to let people know that Grandma is okay, her health is fine, and she had a blast with my cousin Sarah. I also want to update on what has happened with the cousins and the maternal side of our family. Some of our paternal cousins from Grandma's side have agreed to include Luke in everything. They just don't want to force people to interact with him. These cousins are mainly on the older side and have soft spots for the youngsters. My youngest cousin, Sarah, said she was fine with it all, but she wanted them to keep him away from her since she can't stand him anymore. Our maternal side was a bit of a disaster, because of course we need one. Some of them were very upset, but others told me I should try to understand where he was coming from. My mom was the one that told them everything. Some people told her that she was at fault for making Robert the star of the family. This was so uncalled for and caused some issues in my family, particularly when one of my maternal cousins asked me if I could behave enough if I were seated at the same table as Luke for his wedding. It makes us doubt ourselves, but really. This is a cousin of Robert's who has bailed him out of almost bankruptcy twice. He's the one who's the problem. I haven't said much about my sister Lucy since she never had anything different to say. She was always very close to Luke and even had a great relationship with Emma before the debacle. She decided to stay out of it because I was really disappointed. She was never made to babysit or anything like that. She was always so into Luke, since he was her baby brother. She loved him the most. I know that because she told me when I was a kid. We have a good relationship now because her kids are my buddies. But it was rough for a while. While she was upset about the whole thing before that, when our maternal family or at least a part started excusing Luke, she lost it. She is a very calm person, the type you don't expect to get angry. But she lost it, and I think it was the last straw for Luke. She sent a massive message about. She sent a detailed account of everything that had been going on, daring people to challenge her if they had a different view. She included every negative detail, every bad word and every role. She sent it to so many people because she was tired of the lack of information and the uncertainty. She is upset with me because she said she knows she shouldn't have done it, but she needs time to work through her feelings, so she's not speaking with me right now. My parents decided they were out of the wedding and told Luke he's on his own. There was never a money issue, they were willing to contribute, but both Luke and Emma are. They're pretty well off, and there was no need for that. Now, to answer the question on everyone's mind, my grandma is feeling better, and Sarah being with her was very positive. It was lovely to see the eldest and youngest of our family so in tune, but then again, they've always been that way. Sarah asked Luke to come to her birthday party in December. After a lot of back and forth, we decided that 40 is going to be invited. We'll see if he comes or not. She gets a pretty strange lecture from him, and an even stranger one on how he rates certain drugs, lol. As I said, he's no saint, but he's not a bad guy either. And yes, he has photos, even with my sister or me in the newborn wall. People love to take pictures of him holding the new family members, and he collected them and put them together when he got his own house.